Mike and I will be sharing some tips on how you can powerfully start your first day of school with a lasting impact. So we have 6 tips for you. Number 1 is create a welcoming environment. Second is establish clear expectations. So it's all about setting procedures, rules, expectations. Get to know your students.
How many students do you have in class usually?
Recently just 15 to 20.
Okay, and how many classes do you have?
4.
Okay.
How about you?
Yeah, I've got about 10 to 20 students and about 6 classes. So, but it's kind of difficult because I've got Korean students, and even though I'm familiar with Korean names, for some reason it's sometimes difficult to remember because especially since they're wearing masks, you know, you're like, oh. So I try to remember my students by making a class list, writing down their names, and when I check it, I write some interesting information about them that I can remember them with. So I think that's very important, is practicing remembering your students' names as quickly as possible.
Yes, I agree. And then there are also ways wherein we can check on them, how they're doing. Like other teachers, they do activities like emoji check, wherein they just put emojis at the back, and then at the first day of school, how you're feeling, just get an emoji, and then sometimes you're asked to explain, sometimes you're not. At least we know how you're doing during the first day.
Yeah, I actually did a video on 10 ways to start class, and emoji check is a fun way. I think another thing that I enjoy is just having a question that you're going to ask your students. So you can say, okay, something simple like, everyone, what is your favorite color plus your favorite animal? So when you check on them, and well, this isn't for the first day, but that's when you check. Then you ask them a question, and instead of just repeating their names, you're actually getting to know them with it after that.
Yeah. And students who would, their feedback from my students before, where I would really get to know them, they like the feeling of being seen and heard inside the classroom. They want to be known as well, not just students or head count every time we get there.
You've got to allow yourself to get known by your students. You've got to allow them the opportunity to get to know you.
Yes.
So what I like to do in my classes is I tell the students, okay, everyone, I want you to think of 2 questions you want to ask me. The reason I say 2 questions is in case another friend has the same question. So I say, think of any questions you want to ask me, and then I'm going to go around and ask them questions. Now, it's very simple. You allow the students to prepare a question, so it's not sprung on them and they don't feel nervous. So you say, okay, everyone, I'll give you a minute, think of 2 questions. Give them some examples if they speak. Then you go around class, you're like, oh, Molly, what's your question? And then she'll say, teacher, are you married? And then you give them a sad face. And then I say, well, I can't lie to you, no, I'm single. Are you married? And then they're like, no, do you have a boyfriend or what's going on? So,
fun.
So not only do you don't have to think of the questions, you can if you want, but you ask them to ask you a question first. They get to know you. You can ask them a follow-up question back to them, because now it's easy. You answer and then you ask a question back at them and they answer. So now, not only, so each student is getting a chance to ask you a question to get to know you, but the whole class is sharing in that experience. So that's something I like to do.
That's really good. So people will be very interested in your personal life. So if you're ready for that, do that activity.
The 2 questions, every time the students ask me something, they're like, teacher, are you married? And then I give like the sad face and I tell them there are 2 questions I hate. But I'm always honest. The other question, and guess what's the other question?
They have kids? No. I don't know.
How old are you? And it's like, oh, I'm so sorry. And then I say, oh, how old do you think I am? So sometimes you can make a game out of it. So sometimes I ask my students, they ask, oh, teacher, do you have a brother or sister? And I say, actually, I have 4, we are 4 brothers. Which one am I? And then the students are, okay, everyone vote. Who says number 1? Who's number 2? Who's number 3? Ah, number 2 is right. I'm the second. So have fun with it. Play mini games to make it interesting for them.
Wow, very good. Nice idea, Eric. And then,
Okay, getting to know your students. So like we said before, allow your students to get to know you. And if you've got a class list, you're going to want to write down specific things about them to get to know them too. And what's really nice, students really appreciate it, is if that first day you take an interest in them, and then later, a week or 2 weeks later, you check up on them. It's like, oh, Sally, what are you doing this week? Oh, I've got soccer practice. How's soccer practice going? 2 weeks later, oh, teacher remembered,
Yeah.
So that is so important from that first day to start building rapport.
Is that applicable for large classes? Like in the Philippines, we have 40 or 15.
Yeah. So with larger classes, you're still going to want to do that. You can do it with all of them, but you're going to pick random ones throughout. So
Yeah.
So you don't want the class as a massive, unknowable, students. You want to start taking an interest. And it's very interesting. It's something similar you do with public speaking.
The speaker.
Yeah, so what I like to do with public speaking is the scan mode. So you're going to focus on one student to keep eye contact while you're talking, then move on to the next one. Because for that student, it feels like they're focusing on you. It's like a one-on-one conversation. And when you ask, let's say you ask 5 students in that class a question about themselves, make a note of it, and each class you can try certain new ones, and it will feel to the class like you are interested in it.
Yes. And it works well for those who are misbehaving.
Yeah, you've got to focus immediately. You'll see that students, they've got to look in their eye like, I'm going to challenge this teacher, I'm going to do something. And immediately, your job is to address that student. So you're going to scan and you see this student looks like they're going to be a little bit of a handful this semester. They're going to be a bit naughty. So you're like, what's your name? You are not afraid of them. You are the leader. So you're going, oh, what's your name? Oh, and what's your favorite drink? Oh, really? When is the last time you drank that? It shows that you're, from the very start, that you're the leader in that class.
Yes. And you're not enemies.
We're not enemies, but we're going to form a healthier relationship where there are boundaries. And, so I think that's important. Don't be scared. Take charge.
Yeah, organics.
Yeah.
Okay, next is share your passion.
Get your students to get to know you, so tell them what you're interested in, and they will remember that, and also you act as a role model to your students to also show that they should show what they are passionate about too, and it's good to share that with people.
Yes, and say for example, for me, when I'm teaching physics, to most students, they think it's hard, it's not easy to understand. But if I start on a positive note and tell them why I enjoy it, why it's gonna be fun, what activities they are to expect, it makes the learning process a lot easier.
Time.
Create a fun activity. We think we already...
Yeah, lots of fun activities. Can't think of any other now, but yeah, find something in common is also nice, where you ask the students when they interview each other, they've got to find something they have in common, like they both have 2 sisters, they both do that. Two truths and a lie is a common one. Yeah, that's something fun too.
Yeah, or also group activities or experiments if you're doing science.
Fair enough.
And lastly, end on a positive note.
I like to have a message at the end of my classes, telling my students what they can expect. I'm going to say, guys, we're going to have a fun time. We're going to work well. We're going to make friends. We're going to do fun activities. We're going to improve your skills. And I'm so happy for you to join my class, and extend an invitation to them. If they ever have a question or problem, they can contact you here, or they can see you after class. Always open yourself up to your students. So you're ending on a positive note, and you're also extending that olive branch where you say,
Yeah.
let's work together and make this a fun time.
Yeah, it's a collaborative process. Yeah, that's what I also do. I tell them in advance that this is a teamwork. I'm willing to give you my best, but of course, I expect you guys to really participate in all my discussions or classes.
You know what? Students know when you've got their best interest at art. So in that very first class, show them your compassion, strength, and also planning to make that a successful semester.
All right. Thank you so much, Eric, for the wonderful tips, and thank you for being in my channel, in my video.
Thank you so much, Kay, for having me.
Thank you guys, and have a wonderful first day of class.